In fact, I went up and down the main street to every hotel and motel, but there was no room. Finally, I persuaded an old man to let us stay in the barn with his animals. He's charging an exorbitant price, Mary, but he promised me he would clean out the manure and cover the floor with fresh straw. And most of all, Mary, he said we could be alone. And he would not make us share the store with any other couple. Their hearts heavy, Mary and Joseph made their way to the stable, thankful at least for a shelter from the cold wind. At night, the Son of God was born. Can you imagine how the Christmas story might have been written if Mary and Joseph had not had the capacity to adjust to things beyond their control? Every couple on earth must learn to develop this capacity if they are to enjoy a happy marriage. Life is really too many unexpected turns and unforeseen problems. You may not experience the challenges Mary and Joseph faced, but you will encounter your own unique set of difficulties. Without the capacity to rise above your circumstance, you will never cultivate happiness. You may have more success, beauty, intelligence, health, and wealth than anyone else, but if you do not cultivate contentment in every circumstance, unhappiness is certain. Workbook exercise: adjusting to things beyond your control. Learning how to rise above difficult circumstances may be the greatest gift you can give your spouse. Saboteurs of a happy marriage. Subheading: in the previous sections, we showed you what happy couples do right. We would be remiss if we do not also show you the other side of marriage, what unhappy couples do wrong. If you are to cultivate the habit of happiness with your partner, you will need to avoid the poisons of self-pity, blame, and resentment. And subheading 1: self-pity. Too many marriages have unknowingly missed out on happiness because of self-pity, whether experienced by one partner or two. Self-pity can bleed the joy out of marriage. Self-pity can bleed the joy out of a relationship. Even marriages that start out strong can be crippled and permanently damaged if self-pity is allowed to develop and run amok. One afternoon, we pulled into the driveway of some friends who came from their house to greet us before we even got out of the car. They quickly passed the minimal civilities of the greetings and burst into a story of self-pity concerning their new pastorate. Our church is just awful, Rick complained. They totally misrepresented themselves. We thought we thought the congregation would be well educated like us, but it's blue collar. The previous pastor didn't do anything to help the church in the transition, and the people just don't appreciate us at all. And you should just see this house, Jen said, gesturing at the cozy white two-story building behind. It is so small we don't even know what to do with half our stuff. The rest of the evening was no better. Rick and Jan railed off one story after another to let us know how horrible their new circumstances were. And when one of them stepped out of the room, the other would tell us how worried they were about their spouse, about how they coveted our prayers for their marriage. Self-pity has poisoned their entire lives. All right. Self-pity. Okay. As we drove away from their home later that evening, we wondered what would happen to a couple so thoroughly consumed with self-pity. We didn't just have to wait long to see the results. Within a year, Rick resigned from the church and their marriage hit bottom. He and Jan tried to recover by moving to another city to start again, but Rick could not make it as a freelance preacher. The marriage crumbled. The pain of self-pity that we inflict on ourselves often hurts friends and families too. So why do we continue to punish ourselves and others when the pain is not necessary? Hard times and bitter personal experiences are a part of every couple's life. And self pity about those difficulties helps no one. In fact, no one can ever be an effective marriage partner with the added burden of self pity to cope with. Self pity is a luxury no happy marriage can afford. Subheading: blame. Blame. Ever since Adam blamed Eve and Eve blamed the serpent, Ever since Adam blamed Eve and Eve blamed the serpent, couples have employed the trick of finding excuses and shifting responsibilities. A great deal of unhappiness in marriage can be traced to a mate's habitual tendency to blame his or her spouse. For example, Stuart, our case study, was in the middle of fixing a malfunctioning oven pilot light and could not find his screwdriver. He confronted Christy, accusing her of misplacing it. "You never put my tools back in their places," he shouted. "You make me so upset." "I didn't use your stupid screwdriver," Christy replied. "Why do you always blame me for everything you do wrong?" Voila! Another fight is born. Stuart often blamed Christy for things because she was an easy target, and by avoiding responsibility, Stuart was off the hook for the unhappiness in their home. Christy was to blame. She was the problem. Christy, in turn, fed the fire by taking offense at his false accusations. Instead of controlling her own attitude, she allowed her husband to control her responses. In many unhappy relationships, one of the partner is the scapegoat, the one held responsible for the couple's unhappiness. The other partner sees him or her as the source of their difficulties. In effect, the blaming spouse is saying, "You are my problem." But he or she will be hard pressed to find a marriage counselor who would agree. Professionals know better. They know that marital unhappiness is never caused by only one person. That is why therapists focus not on who is wrong, but on what is wrong. Blaming almost always results in a marital blow-up, and it did for Stott and Christie. But through counseling, Stott learned to own up to his emotions and curb his blaming. And when he didn't, Christie learned to avoid retaliation by directing her efforts towards solving the problem instead of having a confrontation.